Hello folks, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In this video, we will be discussing a current affair video, but we will be discussing more specifically about your polity compilation of May 2024 current affairs strictly from your prelims perspective. We will see if there are any previous questions from that particular topic, or we will see what are some possible questions that might come from the topic. For most topics, we will learn the topic through your MCQs. Alright, so let's get into the video. So what is the topic that we will be looking into in the today's course of video is mass media and election. We will be looking into your internet shutdowns. We will be looking more into your OBC lists. We will also be discussing about your Article 39B and private properties. We will be speaking about your Article 329B. We will see about your Form 17C. We will look into your silence periods. We will at last be ending with your diplomatic passport topic. Alright. This is presented to you by your faculty, Sushma KP. Alright, let's dive in. The first topic, mass media and election. See, when it comes to mass media and election, first you have to understand what constitutes to the topic of mass media. Is it only your newspapers, magazines, articles, or is it also your social media? What exactly constitutes mass media? See, within mass media, there are subsections. For example, so newspaper, magazines, etc. are called as print media. Your social media, your WhatsApp, your Twitters, or now called X, your Instagram, all of those, basically wherever you get information from, mainly apart from your paper. These are called as your electronic media. Your mass media comprises of both print media as well as electronic media. So when we say mass media, it is more of a broad topic. The reason I'm telling this, for example, they might have statement form of questions where they can tell mass media according to this particular act deals only with electronic media or only deals with the print media. That is why I'm telling mass media is a more of a broader concept. It comprises of both print media as well as electronic media. So your mass media and election have a direct relation. When I say they have a direct relation, your mass media on election, the effect it bears is both positive as well as negative. What do I mean? Let's assume mass media is one of the first things where it will make sure, see, it is very common for people to feel, how is my one vote going to change anything? So you have a sense of voter apathy. Yes, so they constantly keep trying. One of the positive roles of your mass media is they constantly trying to remember and make a person realize about his civic duty. Change the perception that it is your fundamental right that you have to exercise. So right to cast a vote, it will also provide you information about the candidates, schemes, government policies. This will also become a medium where you will have a debate about the policies which were brought in by the government, which worked, which didn't work. So basically this serves as a medium where you will become a responsible, dutiful citizen towards your country. Now, the same point of time, if you look at a negative, there is also a negative bearing to your mass media on election. First and foremost, yes, the whole point of media is supposed to be non-biased. If it is non-biased, then it will be able to do all of these. But what happened, or recently terms, what we are seeing is, it is somewhere towards the bias. The corporate companies are tying up with the media houses. Corporate companies are having shares, or they are the major shareholders in your media houses. And also your political parties are associating themselves with particular media houses. So this mass media can either up or lower the candidate. The same thing you can think of it in a positive perspective means, now for example there'll be some independent candidate who will want to communicate with the people, with the voters, but he's not able to do because of certain constraints, or he's not able to gain the advantage with respect to the mass media. Then he has, again, the same thing, your specific social media he can use, again part of mass media. So this is both a pro as well as a con. This term where your mass media affecting or in a negative manner, or it is not giving very desirable results, we call that as media gatekeeping. For example, during your most countries have reported this, wherein they have remained voluntarily, that is the media has remained voluntarily, they have divided themselves, or voluntarily they've moved towards a path where they know a particular piece of information is wrong, it is misleading, it is false, and yet they've not gone to address it. They have left it for the sensationalism. This is one of the main thing that is affecting your election, sensationalism. Now for example, yes, mass media means your election commission during your election period of time, they can control, they can put in some restrictions. But one more we are facing issue, we are facing in the present time is your sensationalism. What is that? For example, your independent YouTube content creators, they might create a news only channel. They technically won't come under your mass media, where your election commission can't give going to each one person and keep monitoring which is misinformation, because your mass media has now become a ground for propagation of your misleading information, false data, distorted facts. What? They are all reaching towards this sensationalism. Now again coming back, so your independent YouTube channels who are reading only news only things, and they taking facts and data out of the context, and they have to create the only whole objective is create more views. So they'll go to any extent to do that, which means they can twist the facts without giving the entire content or the narrative, which lets the people in a view that yes, now this is how it is. So a sense of bias comes in. Now when I told, when people in mass medias are knowing yes, this is a wrong piece of information, but they are not doing anything to address that, the voluntary code is not seen here. So these are all few of the things that are affecting your mass media and election as a direct relation. One main thing is, if we have to see that as to with regard to mass media and election, your election commission and has certain provisions as to how they can control, and also what are certain provisions that they are actually putting in place, we will see further down the video. But as of the laws which are specifically present with regard to your mass media and election, more specifically it is controlled by whom, is the information technology intermediary guidelines and digital media ethics code rules of 2021. Okay, now look at this. We discussed what is mass media. It is both your print media plus electronic media. All right, now your mass media is considered so important for a democracy, or what we call as the press. Right, the press, now here we are taking from your print media, no, but when I'm here calling press, well, let's put it in a whole bigger broader show. So much so that your mass media is considered as your fourth estate of a democratic country. What are the other three? First is your legislature, executive, and your judiciary. The fourth one is your mass media. More specifically, which article are we talking about here when we say mass media? Is your article 19(1) of A. Okay, this is the article that you have to remember. Now, what is the role of mass media in an election process? Just tidbits you will remember. Dissemination of campaign information, which candidate is standing, what is his manifesto, if he's an independent candidate or belonging to a particular party, what is he promising to his voters, so what can you expect from this particular person. And also one of the main things about your mass media is it influences the voter behavior. It will help shaping the public image of a candidate. It is your mass media is so crucial these days that somewhere around your 2018 2019 elections, people were all, majority of your political parties were all engaged with your Cambridge Analytica, that is data collection from your users. So, if you collect data from your users, these users are not knowing how their data is being used. So the information that they watch in the so-called mass media will influence their voting pattern. Understanding? So majority of your national parties were also alleged of that is your data analytics, yeah, Cambridge Analytica, they were all engaged in using. This is also one of the tools of effective messaging where the information can be directly put out, and also because I told you mass media is on multiple front, that is your print media as well as electronic media, and each media pay, instead of giving one distorted information or a lack of connect or something he has told there, something he has told here, this will be one a point where you put in all the print and electronic media together. It will be one point of proper structured information or message coming from the both parties. It also facilitates policy discussion, and also it will restore the faith in electoral processes. Yes, these are all the positives or pros that we see of your mass media. Alongside, there are cons also. Then now coming back to your election commission and your mass media. First and foremost, with regard to political parties and state media, and more specifically from 1998 onwards, from 1998 Lok Sabha election onwards, there is a provision where the national parties and state parties can use this state media. For example, your national parties can utilize almost, let's say, 10% of the state media, such as your Doordarshan, All India Radio, with regard to your national level. With regional levels, they can go for 15%. Whereas your state parties, they can go for 15% with their respective Doordarshan on the regional channels, yeah, regional language channels. So they have this provision with respect to the political parties and the state media, that is with respect to your Doordarshan and All India Radio. The challenges, like we discussed, media gatekeeping, all the things that we discussed, it becomes a threat to sovereignty. Why and how do we say that mass media is becoming a threat to sovereignty? For example, in your 2016 US elections onwards, that is when Trump started coming into candidacy after Obama. Okay, after Obama, your Trump was the one who came in. It was alleged that there was huge Russian involvement in your social media to bring in a particular candidate. That is, that point of time, it was between your Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. So it was alleged that your Russian involvement is there in the, or Russian was meddling in the US elections. Don't you think that becomes a threat to the sovereignty itself? That is an external factor, is determining one of the most important things for your country. So that is a threat to sovereignty. This is also one thing that we can see with regard to your mass media. And if you see, yes, why can't we control it? Now with this concept such as encryption, now for example, WhatsApp, yeah, it becomes very difficult to monitor the data in encrypted medium. And second thing, because the social media is not like, yes, this is the set of things you have to follow, it is not that easy and it is not easily monitored. But like we said, independent YouTube channels, etc. So they are finding ways wherein it becomes very difficult for people to arrest the spread of misinformation, false propagandas. Understanding? Sensationalism, like we discussed, it is all about increasing. Earlier it was about increasing TRPs of the channels, now it is increasing the view counts of the channels. Yeah. And also one main thing, your mass media, at least the more in the electronic media, if we see, this is, it creates online echo chambers. What are these online echo chambers, or the online whispers is what we call, meaning a user's information is all taken from him without the user getting to know all of this, okay, in the background, and he will be fed the information. The information fed to him will only be in such a manner that it will align with his view. So he feels that yes, the entire world is only thinking that way, then only my viewpoint is correct, everyone else is wrong. So this creates a polarization. This is very wrong and bad for a democracy, especially if you have to have tolerance as a main spirit. This gets affected because of this online echo chambers. That's what I said, your Cambridge Analytica also came into the picture and this things only. So this creates a polarizing tendency. Without you knowing, you are made to believe that your viewpoint is correct. The aspect of tolerance, compassion, those things are eliminated. The whole point of democracy is that, and in a way you're just trying to take away that. It also compromises model code of conduct and also privacy concerns, especially with respect to your users' data. All right. What is the way ahead we can do? First thing is enhanced social media monitoring. Next is foster international cooperation, strengthen data protection framework. Okay, but more specifically, now we will enter into this one particular topic called as voluntary code of ethics. Okay, this is more put in your 2019 elections. Look at this. As a result of Commission's vigorous persuasion, all major social media platforms and IAMI, that is Internet and Mobile Association of India, came together and mutually devised this voluntary code of elections for the general election. That is, you put a moral suasion on yourself. That is why the name voluntary code of ethics, because it is very difficult to monitor for me. So I put this thing in place. Understanding? So this is one particular thing you have to understand from your prelims perspective. Now let's see some of the questions from your prelims perspective from this particular topic. The Election Commission of India has taken several measures to regulate the use of social media during elections. Which of the following is not one of them? Keyword, not one of them. Voluntary code of ethics for social media. We just saw that because your social media is very difficult to manage, so they brought in voluntary code of ethics. So this is correct. Yes. Social media monitoring cell. Yes. This is also there. Mandatory verification of social media accounts. No, this is not the thing. We have a number of social media accounts. Yes, this cannot be brought in, and that too, if you tell you have to, verify your social media accounts, okay, you can tell it for India, you can tell it for the whole world, right? So this is not correct. So this is not one of them. D, all of the above. No, this is not the answer. C, mandatory verification of social media accounts is not one of. This is a question regarding a fake news on elections. Consider the following statements. Fake news can influence the outcome of elections by spreading misinformation and disinformation. What are they first asking in this question? Which of the above statements are correct? Fake news can influence the outcome of elections by spreading misinformation and disinformation. Yes, this is correct. Fake news can be spread through various media platforms, including social media, print media, electronic media. Yes, correct. We saw that in the very first itself. The Election Commission of India has taken measures to counter fake news during elections. See, look at this keyword, during elections. Yes, if during elections was not there, at least we could have had to talk about it, but this is correct. So the answer is C, 1, 2, 3. All of the above statements are correct. Next, look at this. Which of the following is a provision of the Representation of People Act 1951? Regulation of opinion polls and exit polls, yes, this is there. Regulation of election expenses, yes, this is also there under your RP Act of 1951. Disqualification of candidates, yes, this is also there. So the answer is D, all of the above. Most of the things that I've given all of the above, just so that at least through this I will give you the information that it is needed from the topic. So the answer for that was all of the above. The Election Commission of India has established a committee to regulate media during elections. What is the name of that committee? Media Certification and Monitoring Committee. First, let me read out all the options. Election Commission of India Media Committee, National Media Committee, none of the above. The answer is Media Certification and Monitoring Committee. This was the committee that was set up by your election commission so that they can regulate the media during your election period of time. I write these down. Look at this. Consider the following statements with reference to the role of mass media in promoting transparency and accountability in elections. What are they asking us to do here? Which of the above statements are correct? So they are asking us to see which is correct statement. Mass media provide information to voters about candidates and their policies. Yes, correct. We discussed it in the starting. Mass media can promote transparency and accountability in elections by exposing electoral malpractices. Yes, this is also correct. Mass media is regulated by Election Commission of India to ensure fair and unbiased reporting. Yes, this is also correct. So the answer is C, all three. Like I said, just in this way I can give you more content so you can use it for your elimination method. I have given all of these statements in most things. Look at this. The next topic that we will be discussing is about your internet shutdowns. First and foremost, why internet shutdowns is done? With regard to national security. Let's take an example during your Jammu and Kashmir. When it was affecting the security of the state. Now here the state, we mean India as a whole. Then at that point of time, internet shutdown had to be done in your Kashmir region. Preventing social unrest. Now, for example, in your 2018 period of time, in your Maharashtra play, they had to bring in, that is, they had to do internet shutdowns, especially surrounding your celebration of Bhima Koregaon anniversary celebrations. At this point of time, again, your social unrest broke out among the communities. So, over the celebration of your Bhima Koregaon anniversary, so they had to impose your internet shutdown here also. Preventing cheating. One example that you can take is yeah, in Rajasthan. Okay, in Rajasthan, to prevent cheating, that is copying during your teachers' examination, they bought in your internet shutdown. Security and public order. This is more specific. Now we can take our current affair itself. For example, Manipur ethnic violence, to control this and bring order into the state. Okay, internet shutdown is done. So these are all the reasons why internet shutdown is done. See, one thing with respect to your internet shutdown, it costs a lot for your economy, so much so that let me put it in this way, it will be easier for you to understand. One day of internet shutdown will cost, or will like when I say will cost, associate it as a cost factor. One day of internet shutdown will lead to almost 400 people becoming unemployed. More specific, somewhere around 372 people getting unemployed. That is the impact of internet shutdowns, and yet this happens, and it is a huge economic loss for the country also. According to your Access Now, said that in 6 consecutive years, India has had a majority of internet shutdowns, and also compared to your 2022, 2000, compared to your 2022 and 23, there is almost 42% rise in the instances of internet shutdowns. So what, okay, fine, people are telling internet shutdown. What does it mean? First thing is, see, look at the keywords they will associate with respect to your internet shutdown and with regard to democracy. It is called as shrinking democracy, because your right to speech and expression, whatever you say, Article 19 of 1 of A, it is getting affected. You are not able to exercise your freedom of speech and expression. Growing violence. Okay, look at this. Keep it on shutdown. A record high of 221 shutdowns just in 2023 alone. So people associate it with your internet shutting down to your shrinking democracy. Understanding? Now, we kept speaking this much about internet shutdown, internet shutdown. What exactly is internet shutdown? That is, you cut off internet access to a particular place for a particular time period. This is internet shutdown. Now, if you see with regard to your internet shutdowns, so much so that it affects the common people the largest. It affects their daily lives to the largest. It affects students to the largest. This already we have marginalization, growing economic disparity. This increases the plight by many folds. Your healthcare gets affected. Your, let's say a particular place is put in a internet shutdown. If any natural calamity is to happen, then they will not be prepared, because they do not have that connection, they do not have that connectivity. For example, this happened with respect to your Myanmar. They had their early warning system, yes, they had everything, but they couldn't receive the information. Why? They were in an internet shutdown. So internet shutdown is not a very desirable feature of a democracy. Now, coming to the provisions for internet shutdown, which means in which way we have legislative procedures through which that we can do this internet shutdown. First and foremost, only by a union or state home secretary alone of the Ministry of Home Affairs, and this provision of internet shutdown is coming from your temporary suspension of telecom services, public emergency, or your public safety rules of 2017. This comes under your Indian Telegraph Act of 1885. Okay, then constantly this will be reviewed by your committee. The committee comprises of, that is, it is headed by cabinet secretary at union level and chief secretary at state level. This will be reviewed by them. Understanding? Now we will also see what does your Supreme Court feel about your center's discretion on your internet shutdown. First and foremost, in your Anuradha Bhasin versus Union of India case 2020, they said that your internet shutdown is affecting your fundamental right of Article 19 of A, that is your freedom of speech and expression. Another thing is, if anything, if any shutdowns, if anything you have to impose a restriction on the people, then it has to be in accordance with Article 19 of 2. It cannot be arbitrary, and it cannot be for an indefinite period of time. Main thing that came out of this is the internet shutdown can only be temporary. This cannot be for indefinite period. And This internet shutdown is subject to judicial review. You cannot keep judiciary out of this. This is your Supreme Court stand with regard to your internet shutdowns. What is the impact of internet shutdown? Like we discussed, economic loss, it is a huge economic loss for India. It curbs your fundamental rights. It promotes inequality. Like I again said, marginalized communities where students are not getting access to your, already we do not have uniform internet connectivity. But in that also, if this things happens, it is more of a depreciation for us. And also this is one period of where human right abuse can be done on a very larger level. Large amount of killings, human right violations, rape, etc., genocides are all done during this period of time because there is internet, no internet connectivity. So which means the information will not go out, so people tend to use this to their advantage, the illegal ones. The education and healthcare get affected. Like I told you, with respect to your early warning system, your Myanmar, when it was affected by cyclone Mocha, it could not get prepared for that because there was internet shutdown going on in your Myanmar. So with respect to disaster management also, this becomes a very difficult thing. Now let's see certain questions from this particular topic. With reference to the internet shutdown in India, consider the following statements. The temporary suspension of telecom services, public emergency or public safety rules of 2017 empower the central government to suspend internet services. Correct. The rules require the suspension order to be reviewed by a review committee within 5 days. Correct. Again, these statements are given so that you can add it to the list of points. The rules provide for compensation to be paid for individuals affected by the suspension order. Though it seems like it should be correct, but it is not. This is not there. This is not correct. Okay. The answer is only the first two statements, which means A is the answer. There is no such rules for compensation to be provided. Look at this. In the Anuradha Basin versus Union of India case, the one that we just discussed, he is related to which of the following? Internet shutdowns in Jammu and Kashmir, freedom of speech and expression, right to access information. See, now because of the topic that we spoke, let's say the same question they will give, you will automatically pick this. This is directly what we spoke. But in your Anuradha Bhasan versus Union of India case, it was about all three of this. Internet shutdowns in Jammu and Kashmir, freedom of speech and expression, and right to access information. So the answer is D, all of the above. Understanding? Look at this. Which of the following articles of the Constitution of India has been invoked by the Supreme Court to strike down internet shutdown orders? This is important. Look at this. Invoked by the Supreme Court to strike down internet shutdown orders. This is your Article 19, 1 of A, your right to freedom of speech and expression. Next, look at this. The internet shutdowns in India are governed by which of the following laws? The Indian Telegraph Act of 1885, Information Technology Act of 2000, temporary suspension of telecom services, public emergency or public safety rules of 2017, all of the above. See, understand one thing, directly people will pick this. In the very first slide, I told you this is a part of this. Yes or no? The answer is all three of those. So the answer is all the above. Next. The next topic we will be discussing is about your OBC lists. More of OBC lists we will see from your questions perspective. We'll learn about this particular topic based on the questions. Okay. This is a previous year UPSC questions 2019 question. Which of the following statements is correct regarding to National Commission for Backward Classes? It is a constitutional body, statutory body, executive body, judicial body. Initially it was statutory body, later it got into a constitutional status. More specific after your 102nd amendment. Look at this. This is 2018 question. The creamy layer concept was introduced in the case of Indira Sawhney versus Union of India. What was the main objective of introducing this concept? Look at this. To exclude the advanced section of the OBCs from reservation benefits, to include the poorer section of the forward caste in the reservation benefits, to provide reservation benefits to the OBCs in private sector, to exclude the OBCs from the reservation benefits altogether. See, this is not an answer. To exclude them altogether, no, we still have OBC reservations. In private sector, if at all they were to bring it to private sector, then they have to bring it to all the sections. Why only OBC? So this is also wrong. Second one, no, based, see, look at this, poorer sections of the forward caste and the reservation benefits, at least up until your EWS category, Supreme Court has held the stand that the whole point of reservation is for social backwardness. Understanding? So, the first one is the answer, to exclude the advanced section of the OBCs from the reservation benefits. This is the creamy layer. According to the Mandal Commission, 27% of reservation is given. You have to know that. The central government has the power to include or exclude a caste from the central list of OBCs. What is the basis for this power? Article 16 of 4, Article 15 of 4, the National Commission for Backward Classes recommendation, state government's recommendation. Answer is Article 16 of 4. A is the answer. Next, look at this question. The Supreme Court has ruled that the total reservation for SC, ST, OBCs cannot exceed 50%. What is the name of the cases in which this ruling was made? Indira Sawhney versus Union of India, Nagaraj versus Union of India, Ashok Kumar versus Union of India, Chebrolu Leela Prasad versus Union of India. The answer is Indira Sawhney versus Union of India, in which they made the landmark judgment stating that the reservation cap should not cross 50%. Which of the following is a function of the NCBC? To advise the central government on the inclusion or exclusion of a caste from central list of OBCs. I will read out all the statements, then we will discuss. To monitor the implementation of the reservation policy for OBCs, to investigate complaints of atrocities against OBCs, to provide financial assistance to OBC students. See, it is a committee. Understanding, why will it deal with giving financial assistance, and why will it take up cases on investigating atrocities against OBCs, and it will not monitor the implementation? That is why your executive bureaucracy and all, it is also not the answer. The answer is to advise the central government on the inclusion or exclusion of a caste from the central list of OBCs. Again, why this topic has come in is because many states like your Karnataka, West Bengal pay, your NCBC has held that we have to review their list, your center with regard to your OBC. Center can have one OBC list, state can have one OBC list. Your NCBC has held that many states like Karnataka and West Bengal have added states which are not eligible to be in the OBC list. So which has brought this topic into the discussion or limelight. Which of the following statements is correct regarding central list of OBCs? It is prepared by your NCBC. It is prepared by Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. It is prepared by Department of Personnel and Training. It is prepared by Registrar General of India. Why will Registrar General of India come in? Department of Personnel and Training? No. The correct answer is it is prepared by Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. The first one, it is just a committee. It will not be involved in doing all of this. Look at this. The 102nd Amendment Act of 2018 relates to what we just discussed it. Empowerment of women, reservation of SC, ST, establishment of a National Commission for Backward Classes, establishment of National Commission for Scheduled Classes. The answer is establishment of National Commission for Backward Classes, NCBC, wherein it set up Article 338B into the Constitution. Initially, it was a statutory body, but after this, it gained constitutional status. Which of the following is not a criterion for determining the creamy layer? Income, education, social status, property. It is social status. Understanding? Look at this. The term indirect benefit is associated with creamy layer concept, reservation policy, right to education, right to information. The answer is creamy layer concept. You have to understand indirect benefit, creamy layer concept. Okay, this is how they might ask questions. Like we discussed, there can be two lists with respect to OBC list. One is central list, state list. According to Article 342A, President and along with the consultation of Governor will prepare the central list. That is when I say will prepare the central list, they will specify the central list to the OBCs. Then the state list 342A empowers the state to prepare and maintain its own OBC list. This is where the issue came up when I told you Karnataka, West Bengal. The next topic that we will be discussing is about your private properties. Now look at this. According to Article 39B, which is a DPSP, the state shall in particular direct its policy towards securing that ownership and control of the material resources of the community which are so distributed as the best to subserve the common good. See, there are few things that you have to understand from your DPSP and your Article 31C perspective. Okay? More specifically here, 39B, whatever we saw, look at this. It strictly states that for the social well-being, okay, the state can own the properties. Now, question is, can the private properties also be considered under your communal good? That is, will it come under your 39B? Look at this. This is where your 31C will come in. There is one particular Supreme Court article, that is one saying that I want you to remember. When Article 31C comes in, Article 14 goes out. And also you have to remember here one important thing is your landmark judgment of Minerva Mills case, where it tried to bring in some changes to whatever it brought in your 42nd Amendment. Your 42nd Amendment was speaking about your judiciary's non-interference into your constitutional amendment, and also the priority of your DPSPs over fundamental rights. So these kind of things they try to right the wrongs. Wherein one thing about your Article 31C is, look at this, Articles 39B and C empower the state to take over the material resources of the community, including private properties, for distribution to subserve the common good. Understanding? So your 31C gives effect and power to 39B and 39C. So one main thing you have to know is you have to just understand these articles because they are in use. Let's see your questions. The Constitution of India guarantees the right to property under Article 31. Yes. But this is not an absolute right. Correct? Which of the following is a limitation on the right to property? Look at this. The state can acquire public property for public purposes. I will read out the statements, then we'll discuss the answer. The state can regulate private property to ensure social welfare. The state cannot acquire private property under any circumstances. The state has no role in regulating private property. Let's assume you don't know this, but it is one easier way. Look at this. State has no role. It looks like an absolute statement. If state is not looking into private property, then it will be a big chaotic hangama. So this is not the answer. State cannot acquire private property under any circumstances. No. Again, too bold of a statement. Now look at these two. Let's assume state can acquire private property for public purposes. Okay, this can is somewhere make whatever, it's not too bold statement, but also look at the second statement. The state can regulate private property to ensure social welfare. Among these two, this is more suited. So this is the answer. Okay. Next question. The directive principles enshrined in Article 39B of the Constitution of India aims to ensure that the ownership and control of the material resources of the community are so distributed as to subserve the common good. That is basically, they have spoken about what Article 39B is. Which of the following is a consequence of this principle? State can acquire private property without compensation. State can regulate private property to ensure social welfare. Cannot acquire private property, no role in regulation. This is like same similar question, but just they've changed the wording. So the answer is still the state can regulate private property to ensure social welfare. Look at this. The Supreme Court has held that the directive principles enshrined in Article 39B of the Constitution is not enforceable by a court of law, but it is the guiding principle for the state to follow. What is the implication of this judgment? This is very, very important for you to know. The first part of the statement. That is, your 39B cannot be enforced by a court of law, but it is guiding principle for the state. Look at this. What is the implication of this judgment? The state is not bound to follow the principle of social welfare while regulating private property. State is bound to follow the principle of social welfare while regulating private property. State can acquire private property and state cannot acquire private property. The important here is the state is bound to follow the principle of social welfare while regulating private property. The reason I put this question is only for this. Article 39B, not enforceable by a court of law, but guiding principle for the state to follow. This is the main thing that you have to understand. Next, look at this. Which of the following directive principles of state policy is not enforceable? Article 39B, Article 39A, Article 41. The answer is D, both A and B, that is 39B and 39A. Okay. Next, we will be looking into the next topic, that is Article 329B. All of this speaks about whatever we will see, that is from Article 324 to 329 speaks about elections. That is part 15. And to be more specific about Article 329B, especially we will see furthermore Supreme Court cases also where it is held that once the election commission announces the date for election, then it also implies and it also wishes that judiciary should be out of that. Understanding? That is what we will be looking into. Look at this. Election Commission, when it announces its dates for election, alongside your Representation of People's Act of 1951 under Section 80, look at this. Ponnuswamy versus Returning Officer, Namakkal constituency and others, they wish that your Supreme Court should not interfere into the elections, should not interfere into the ambit of elections, and if at all any issues with regard to elections are going to come in, then they can be only dealt with election petition which will be raised, and this has to be brought in into that respective state's high court, and the appeal to this lies with the Supreme Court. Any discrepancy or any issues with the election can only be dealt with the election petition, which should be submitted to the authority as per the law which is regarding or dealing with that speaks about. Understanding? Now, let's look at some questions. The election of India, that is Election Commission of India, has the power to ensure the conduct of free and fair elections. Which of the following is a provision of Article 329B of the Constitution of India? Look at this. The Election Commission shall have the power to disqualify a candidate for election. First, I will read out the statements. The Election Commission shall have the power to postpone the election. The Election Commission shall have the power to ensure that no election petition shall be filed after the expiration of 45 days from the date of election. Election Commission shall have the power to allocate symbols to political parties. This can be a little bit confusing question for people, mostly because all of this is done by Election Commission. Understand the difference. All of this is done by the Election Commission, but not all of this is mentioned in your Article 329B. The only thing among these that is mentioned in your Article 329B is the Election Commission shall have the power to ensure that no election petition shall be filed after the expiration of 45 days. All of the other things Election Commission does, but it is not mentioned in Article 329B. That is why this is the answer. Understood? Article 329B of the Constitution of India provides the resolution of election disputes. Which of the following is a consequence of this provision? Election disputes shall be resolved by Election Commission. Election disputes shall be resolved by Supreme Court. Election disputes shall be resolved by High Court, shall be resolved by a special tribunal. Like I mentioned previously, it shall be first raised into your High Court. Only the appeal lies with the Supreme Court. This applies for any elections that is conducted by your Election Commission, be it for the center or for the state. This is your 2018 question on the same topic. The Election Commission of India has the power to ensure the conduct of free and fair elections. Which of the following is a provision of Constitution of India that grants this power? Article 324, 25, 326, 329B. Answer is Article 324. Okay. Next, look at this. Article 329B of the Constitution of India provides for a limitation period for filing of your election petition. What is the duration? We just saw, that is 45 days. Understanding? Next, we will be looking into the topic is Form 17C. Recently also again it has come back and made a headline with respect to your Delhi Assembly elections also coming with respect to Form 17C, where your election commission has held that we cannot share Form 17C to anyone apart from the polling officials. Because so if they are telling we cannot share it out to the public or to the candidate or anyone, then what does it have, especially in your Form 17? It contains two parts. The first part speaks about the voters list as to how many voters were enrolled in this particular constituency, how many of them decided to cast their vote, how many of them decided not to cast their vote, what was their preferences, how many of them are registered in that particular constituency. All of these information are contained here. The second part is all about the candidate and how much votes he secured. Okay, so this information election commission has held that we cannot share it with the public. It is only shared with your polling officials. This has again raised questions from your political parties, candidates, etc. All right, this again your presently recent news in your Delhi Assembly elections. Look at the questions. Which of the following statements is correct regarding Form 17C? It is submitted by the winning candidate, submitted by all candidates contesting election, submitted by election commission, submitted by the returning officer. The answer is submitted by all the candidates. Okay, irrespective of your winning candidate, losing candidates, and also it has information of your candidate assets, liabilities. Yeah, this was your 2020 question. Look at this. What is the significance of Model Code of Conduct in the context of Indian elections? It ensures secrecy of ballot. It ensures transparency of the candidate's assets and liabilities. It ensures fairness of the election process. It ensures accountability of the elected representatives, especially when it comes to your Model Code of Conduct. The main thing they always look for, or the keyword here is free and fair elections. Understanding? The next topic that we will be speaking about is your silence period. Silence period means that is when your elections are supposed to happen. Understanding? The code of conduct that your political parties are supposed to maintain. This is also enshrined in your Representation of People's Act, but in this particular act, they have not defined or referenced what exactly is the silence period. Okay, what exactly the silence period claims? Ban on any political campaigning before voting. It also prohibits displaying any election matter using television. At the same point of time, it prohibits usage of women, children, or any harm to the animals in any form of media, that is in mass media. Okay, again section 126, one of the prohibits displaying results of any opinion polls. You can't even put in your exit polls. Okay, all of this has to become, there is how many period is it for? No, it is 48 hours. Look at the question. What is the primary purpose of the silence period in the context of Indian election? To prevent electoral malpractices, to ensure free and fair elections, to allow candidates to campaign. No, this is the one thing that you're not supposed to do in this period of time. To enable voters to make informed decision. The more correct answer here is to ensure free and fair elections. Which of the following statements is correct regarding the silence period? The Election Commission of India can reduce the duration of silence period. Election Commission can exempt certain candidates from observing the silence period. Silence period is mandatory for all candidates contesting elections. Silence period is optional. See, especially when we are saying it is a part of Model Code of Conduct, it is very important. Then we will not tell that it is optional. So option D goes wrong. Then your option B, exempt, again no. First one also reduce the duration. So this main thing is C. It is mandatory for all candidates contesting the elections. This is the more suitable answer. What is the relationship between silence period and the Model Code of Conduct? Like we discussed, the silence period is a part of Model Code of Conduct. Even though it hasn't gone up and specifically defined as to what contributes it, but it is there. This is your prelims question 2020. Which of the following types of passport is issued to the Indian citizens? The next topic that we are discussing, who are not diplomats or officials. That is, basically they are asking for people who are not diplomats or officials. To them, passport, which one is issued? Diplomatic passport, official passport, ordinary passport, emergency passport. The answer is ordinary passport. If you're not a diplomat or an official, then the common passport that we all get is your ordinary passport. This is your 2019 question. What is the primary purpose of issuing diplomatic passports to Indian diplomats and officials? To provide them with immunity from jurisdiction in foreign countries, to provide them with privileges and immunities in foreign countries, to facilitate their travel abroad, to enable them to carry out official business abroad. The answer is to provide them with privileges and immunities in foreign countries, especially if they've gone on official visits. If we see with regard to your passport in India, it is under your Passport Act of 1967. It is under the Schedule 7, and also it comes under your Union List. Who will be given diplomatic passport is the discretion of, there is no such thing as only these people will be getting diplomatic passport. It is the discretion of Ministry of External Affairs. And also one important thing you have to know is a passport can be issued for non-citizens also if the center feels this is needed for your public good, then they can issue passport even to non-citizens. Now, when we are speaking specifically about your diplomatic passport, it is your up to 5 years. India has also had this visa waiver agreements with 34 countries, yeah, including Germany, let's assume 34 countries, wherein up to 90 days, they don't need a visa up to 90 days of their travel. The three types of passports that we have in our country: blue color passport, which is the ordinary passport, the normal one of us get it. The white passport is a diplomatic passport. The maroon color is the official. Reach the end of the content. If you like our content, subscribe to our channel, hit the like button and share it along with your friends. Thank you.